So, hello everybody. Welcome to the fifth CMS book discussion series. And today our discussion will be moderated by one of our MA third semester students, Sahib Mendirita. Over to you, Sahib.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, one and all. Welcome you to the fifth book discussion series organized by the Department of Culture and Media Studies, Central University of Rajasthan. Today we have with us Dr. Professor Vinod Pavlura and Professor Kanchan K. Malik from Department of Communication, University of Hyderabad, to discuss their co-edited volume titled Communication Radio in South Asia, Reclaiming the Airwaves, published by Routledge. Before we begin, I would like to mention that this session is being recorded and the participants are requested to keep their mics off during the session. Our esteemed speakers would be discussing about their works for 30 minutes, followed by the question and answer session from the participants. The question and answer session will be moderated by Dr. Pranta Pratik. Participants may unmute themselves and ask the questions or may type the query along with their names and institutional affiliation. Now I request Dr. Nicholas Rakra, coordinator of CMS department, to give a welcome note. Over to you,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you, Saib, for inviting me to just put word of welcome. So, on behalf of department and all the participants, students of our department and participants from the different universities, scholars, and professors. Uh, First of all, I would like to congratulate Professor Vinod Pawarala and Professor Kanchan Malik for this great contribution. Okay, this is what I feel that book like Community Radio in South Asia, Reclaiming the Airwaves, I think very significant contribution in the field of communication studies. And this is the area I think need to be done. I think, yeah. And Professor Vinod Pawarala and Kanchan Malik have worked and contributed. This is an important area of contribution in the field of communication. So congratulate you, sir and madam. Okay. Just to introduce Professor Vinod Pawarala and Kanchan Malik. Of course, there will be introduction formally, but they are not very new to us, and also department, and also in the field of communication. They are not new. They are well-known persons. Professor Vinod Paura and Kanchan Malik are very closely associated, related to our department. So from the beginning, Vinod Paura also related to our department. So he has visited several times. He has visited and also met us. Also, there is contribution in our department. And on the side, Professor Kanchan Malik is also presently is a member of board of studies in our department. So like that, they are very closely related to our department, and we feel very much at home with them. Okay. And also we look at them as like for us young learners. We look at them as leaders and also something to be motivated from them. Okay. So with these words of congratulations, I welcome. So welcome Professor Kanchan Malik and Vinod Pawara for delivered their lecture or insight on this book, their contribution. And also I hope that all participants will benefit, get motivated, inspiration from this book and from their sharing. I told that on this field, communication, community radio, many things to be not only academically or intellectually to be done, but also practically it should be done, I think, in our society, our country. Okay, so all this matters, Professor Vinod Pawarala and Kanchan Malik will give their insight and their sharing or understanding the field of community radio. So with these few words, just once again, I welcome Professor Kanchan Malik and Vinod Pawarala for delivering their lecture or their insights, their experience in this field. And at the same time, I welcome all the participants, scholars, students, different scholars, professors from different universities, and also from the field of community radio practitioners. So once again, I welcome everyone, and also I call upon Sahib again to take this session forward. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Welcome. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Anup Kumar, Assistant Professor, CMS Department, to give an introduction about the book.
Thank you very much, Sahif, and thank you, Professor Kanchan Malik ma'am and Professor Vinod Paurala sir. This book, that is Community Radio in South Asia. This book explores the state of community radio, a significant independent media movement that began about 2 decades ago in different parts of South Asia. The volume outlines the socio-economic and historical context for understanding the evolution and functioning of community radio in an increasingly globalized media environment. It provides a ringside view of how various countries in South Asia have formulated policies that enabled the emergence of this third sector broadcasting, public and private being the other two, through radio, rendering the media ecology in the region more pluralistic and diverse. The chapters in the volume, interspersed by practitioner perspectives, discuss a range of key issues related to community radio that include radio policies, NGOization of community radio, spectrum management and democratization of technology, disasters and emergencies, gender issues, sustainability, and conflicts. One of the first of its kind, this volume will appeal to scholars and researchers of community media and independent media studies, cultural studies, as well as sociology and anthropology and South Asian studies. Thank you very much. Over to you, Sahib.
Thank you, Anup sir. Now, I request Dr. Neeru Prasad, Assistant Professor, CMS Department, to introduce our speaker to the participants. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sahib, for giving me this opportunity. Hello, Vinod sir and Kanchan ma'am. And this is really a great privilege for me to introduce our today's guests in our book series. So I would like to introduce first Professor Vinod Paurala sir. Vinod Paurala sir is a senior professor in the Department of Communication at the University of Hyderabad, where he has also held the UNESCO chair on community media since 2011. He has a dual master's in sociology and communication and a PhD from University of Pittsburgh, USA. He taught at the University of Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, and IIT Bombay before joining the University of Hyderabad in 1995. He was a visiting fellow at Princeton University, USA from 1998 to 1999. Through 2 decades of research and policy advocacy, he has been in the forefront of the struggle for freeing of the airwaves in India and South Asia. He has addressed several international forums on community media, including UNESCO, World Association of Community Radio Broadcasters, CMFE, Community Media Forum for Europe, and national and regional networks in Cyprus, Germany, Austria, East and West Africa. He serves as the chair of the Community Communication and Alternative Media section of the International Association for Media and Communication Research and is on the boards of several international journals. So, sir, I welcome you in this session. And now I am going to introduce Kanchan ma'am. So, Professor Kanchan K. Malik is a professor in the Department of Communication at the University of Hyderabad. She is also a faculty fellow with the UNESCO chair on community media since 2011 and editor of the newsletter CR News. She has taught postgraduate journalism and mass communication courses for over 20 years. She obtained her PhD in communication from the University of Hyderabad in 2006, the dual masters in economics and in mass communication. She worked as a journalist with the Economic Times, New Delhi for 2 years before choosing a career in academics. She has worked on several research projects and published research papers on media interventions by non-governmental organizations for empowerment at the grassroots level. Her research has contributed to policy advocacy efforts for community radio in India. Her scholarly articles on the gender dimensions of community radio, as well as the course of practice for community media, among others, are widely cited. Her scholastic and research interests include women in community communications, then community media and the public sphere, then journalism studies, media laws and ethics, and communication for social changes. So, our both authors have previously authored other voices, the struggle for community radio in India 2007, and several joint articles and research reports on community radio in leading publications. So, ma'am, I welcome you. I welcome both of you. So, it's over to you, Sahib.
Thank you so much, Neeru ma'am. Without any further delay, we would like to invite our speakers for today's session. We are eager to hear from you, Kanchan ma'am and Vinod sir. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Sahib Mendirata. I'll share the presentation first and then we'll start. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Please tell me if it is visible. Oh, no. I think I stopped. 1 minute. Yes. Now it should be visible.
Network is unstable.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Is it visible now?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm audible? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, sir. I'll start.
Kanchan, you want to put it in
I've done
slideshow?
that, sir. Yeah.
Oh, it's not coming in slideshow, I think.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes.
Is it coming in slideshow now?
No.
I think there's some lag, if I'm not wrong. Do I do it again?
No, it's not coming in as.
Okay, I'll do an escape and then do those. How about now? Okay, give me a
No.
minute, please. I'll stop sharing and share again. Yeah, earlier it was coming, but now I think there's some, when we tested. It's in slide show mode now. Is it visible?
Not in
The
slideshow.
slide is visible, but not in the slideshow mode.
Oh, yeah. On my laptop, it's showing
On slide.
slideshow.
Ma'am, I think you
Yes.
can continue. It's like visible.
मैम आप क्या कर सकते हैं ना वो ड्रैग कर देंगे थोड़ा बड़ा हो जाएगा स्लाइड
But I'm not
So-
able to drag because on my screen it is in the slideshow.
It is
mode.
full screen. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it is
on-
full screen.
my point is that no need to do full screen, just drag that side so it will be larger, the slide should
Okay,
be
then
larger.
I'll have to escape from the slide show.
Yeah.
Pranta, just see again. I've tried to share it
I think-
again.
This mode is also visible.
I think now
This screen is also
Ma'am, this
visible.
is
If you
also
can-
visible.
Yeah, this is also visible.
shall I just go ahead and we'll see how it goes?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sure, ma'am.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I can just yeah. Okay, sorry about this, but
Nice,
yeah.
nice.
Okay. I'm just trying to close the other windows. Maybe they are, yeah. No, I cannot close the others because then I lose the Google Meet thing. Okay, I think we'll have to make do with this. So yeah.
This is fine, ma'am.
All right. So thank you to the Department of Culture and Media Studies, Central University of Rajasthan, for making us a part of your online book discussion series. Dr. Lakra, Dr. Anup, Dr. Pranta Patnaik, Dr. Neeru Prasad. This is a wonderful initiative to showcase scholarly contributions in the field of media and communication studies. It's a pleasure for us to be here to discuss our book. when we started our community radio journey it was in the year 2000, it was still a phantom we were chasing across South Asia. While in India, the civil society movement for reclaiming the airwaves had just begun in a small village in Telangana. It was Andhra Pradesh at that time. There were a few stations up and running in Nepal, including the much wanted Radio Sagarmatha in the Kathmandu Valley. 21 years later, today, we have over 600 community radio stations in India and Nepal put together, and another 25 or so in Bangladesh and Bhutan. Our book is a collection of chapters by academics, activists, and advocates from South Asia, and they address a range of issues that have arisen over these last 2 decades in the community radio domain. We are indeed grateful to all our contributors for sharing their valuable perspectives on community radio and helping us piece together the multi-layered and complex reality of community broadcasting in South Asia.
Kanchan, you want to move the slide?
So this is the one, this is the one we stick with. After you have spoken, then I'll be moving to the next slide. Yes. So our thanks, as I said, to all the numerous community radio stations we visited in the region, I'm actually on the second slide. Is that visible?
You are on the title slide.
No, I'm actually on the second slide, sir.
No, it has not moved.
It's not moved.
Oh, I moved it to the second slide. I think there is a problem.
Yeah, now it has come. Yeah, now it has come.
Oh, okay.
Now it
I
has
don't
moved.
think it is working in the slideshow mode, so I've put it back in the normal mode, right?
Okay.
Now it has moved.
Okay, I had moved it. Sorry about this, but let me repeat my thanks to all the numerous community radio stations we visited in the region who, by opening their doors to us and sharing the experiences, kept us grounded to everyday realities of community radio. I'd ask Professor Pavarala to say a few words before we start the discussion on the book. Yes.
I just want to add my thanks to what Kanchan said, to Pranta and Central University of Rajasthan, Dr. Lakra and other colleagues for inviting us to do this. Nice to see one of our contributors, Bidu, here, and hopefully some others may also join. So we are happy to be here and discuss the book. Just to add to the context that Kanchan mentioned, I mean, in 2007, when the book came out, as Kanchan said, the movement was just about beginning in India and Bangladesh and other parts of the world and other parts of South Asia. And now we have the number that Kanchan mentioned. And since then, UNESCO has also established the UNESCO Chair on Community Media at our university, with Professor Kanchan, me, and some other colleagues working together, Professor Vasuki, who you know, working on radio and video as well. And it has given us an opportunity to continue to work with community radio stations in South Asia and in other parts of the world. And this book is kind of a, 2-3 years in the making. I think I should acknowledge Kanchan, who's really, as a lead editor, put in a lot of effort into this, coordinating with the contributors, editing the works and so on. And a lot of people in South Asia have been asking for a book like this that reflects the situation with community radio in the region as a whole. So we are happy to offer this as a small token of recognition of the tremendous work that's going on in the region. Yeah. Back to you, Kanchan.
All right. So I'll move to the next slide and hopefully it will work. Yes. I hope you're able to see the next slide, which says
Yeah.
background.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I've tried to, also increase the size, so hope it's visible. Yeah, thank you, sir. And by way of a background to our book, which of course is titled Community Radio in South Asia, Reclaiming the Airwaves, as many of you here already know, over the years, community radio has gained credence worldwide as an alternative to the mainstream broadcast media. It's also looked upon as an entity owned and managed by marginalized groups, as a tool for sustaining development, giving voice to the unheard, and contributing towards strengthening the communication rights. There is a lot of buzz around community radio in the whole of South Asia today, given the active role that it has played during the pandemic. But even before the pandemic, India had leveraged the potential of community radio stations in facilitating electoral literacy during 2019 general elections, besides other projects that seek to augment democracy, women empowerment, and social change. In Bangladesh, it has been utilizing the potential of community radio stations for mainstreaming participation of youth and marginalized populations in national development, and also for disaster management. Nepal is actively seeking a distinct policy that recognizes its 300-strong community radio sector. Sri Lanka is lobbying with the government to set up autonomous community radio stations. And Bhutan, the Maldives, as well as Pakistan are experimenting with the concept of community radio to explore its long-term prospects in their respective contexts. However, the beginnings of this ferment for community radio sector in the South Asian countries could be traced back to a little over 2 decades, as I said earlier, when the Bangalore Declaration was signed in 1996, followed by the Pastapur Declaration, which was signed in the year 2000. Both of these were advocating for a third independent tier of broadcasting outside of the state and the market that would signify democratic media spaces. There were representatives from Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka present when the 2 declarations that I mentioned were formalized, that anticipated the eventual freeing of the airwaves from the government monopoly in the region. So details about these landmarks in community radio movement in India as well as South Asian countries are available in some of the chapters of this book and our earlier book that Professor Pavrala had mentioned, Other Voices. This book is an effort to understand the state of community radio in South Asia through a perusal of its historiography, policy processes, characteristics, and underlying principles, in addition to its linkages, both with conceptual issues of media democracy, as well as the paradigmatic concerns of daily practice and outcomes. Community radio is a medium supported by multilateral agencies and one that requires constant negotiation between the state and civil society for its existence. All the articles included in the book, details of which we will share with you as we go further, seek to make theoretical interlinkages that contribute towards a more nuanced understanding of community radio in South Asia within the context of media globalization and the ramifications of media globalization for access and control of communication spaces. To build the context for community radio in South Asia further, we have observed that the socio-political, economic, and cultural diversity of the South Asia is suitably mirrored in the community radio's scenario found in the region. As I said before, with over 300 community radio stations to flaunt, including the first ever established in the region, that's Radio Sagarmatha, Nepal exhibits assorted ownership models, including NGO cooperatives, local government authorities, or even commercial organizations. But the country still awaits a clear-cut policy on community radio. In India, the policy guidelines for community radio were issued in 2003 which allowed only educational institutions to set up the stations. This was modified in the year 2006, just about the time when we had submitted the manuscript for our book, to include other civil society organizations with about 300 plus community radio stations there in India today. Bangladesh also witnessed a decade-long advocacy effort by development organizations, and the policy for community radio was announced in the year 2008. Leading to 17 community radio stations going on air until now. There are a few more that have recently been added. So as mentioned earlier, active deliberations have been held in other South Asian countries like Sri Lanka, Bhutan, and Maldives, and Pakistan is also weighing its options. So we at UNESCO Chair on Community Media, in fact, recently facilitated policy deliberations with Bangladesh and Nepal in collaboration with their regional UNESCO offices. This is for both reform and, of course, bringing about a policy in Nepal. So the efforts are on to convince policymakers of the existing prospects and the multiplicity that community radio can bring to their respective national development goals, and for expanding media outlets. The entire South Asian region at present is going through a period of unprecedented social, political, and economic shifts and challenges. In such a cultural and social context, people's voices to influence decisions that affect their lives become significant, and so do community radios, which are owned, produced, and operated by people themselves. However, the formation of a dynamic and autonomous community radio sector in South Asia seems to be perpetually, quote unquote, under progress, in the sense of being a slow, gradual revolution that has not yet managed to fully realize its potential to open up and democratize the media landscape in the South Asian region. There is an urgent need to facilitate a policy environment in South Asian region that enables access to media by people and thereby recognizes their voices. This will help to address the issue of voice poverty, that is, of denial of voice as a consequence of systematic restrictions on modes of self-expression that provide people opportunities to participate in decision-making. Although community radio has become a reality in some of the countries of South Asia, it is not difficult to identify the challenges that make the sustainability of this third tier of broadcasting in the region a daunting task. Some of these hurdles, such as bureaucratic delays in issuing of licenses, prohibitive costs of technology, vanishing spectrum for communities, and declining volunteer support, have been addressed in the various chapters of the book. I'll hand over now to Professor Pavrala to talk about some of these issues that are crucial for a democratic and sustainable community radio sector in South Asia. Sir?
Thanks, Kanchan. So am I audible? Yes. Okay. So some of these issues that Kanchan has just mentioned are issues at the macro level institutional environment, which forms the basis for a democratic and sustainable community radio sector in South Asia. And many of these issues come up repeatedly in some of the chapters in the book. So what I'll do is just mention some of these issues, briefly. So one is about the democracy dividend, as we call it, and other scholars have called it. So in order to have a sustainable, autonomous, and vibrant community radio sector in the region, it's very important that there is a democratic ecosystem in the region, right? And, there is electoral democracy, liberal democracies, in various parts of the region. But what about a more participatory, deliberative kind of democracy? I mean, if you look at typology of democracies by political scientists, you will see this. I mean, if you follow this typology, South Asia as a region has had some substantive and procedural democracy. However, for community radio to find fertile ground, to take root and grow in a healthy manner, it needs to promote, the ruling establishments in the countries need to promote a concept of democracy that is more participatory, more deliberative, and egalitarian. So you not only need the superstructure of a procedural democracy, but you also need people to imbibe democracy through greater citizen engagement and participation to be able to discuss and deliberate issues that matter to them. So only then will community radio and alternative media really get energized and reinvigorated in the region. So if you look at Nepal, for example, it has had a very volatile political situation, had difficulties with formally adopting a new constitution for years, and community radio consequentially doesn't have recognition as a distinct entity or a clear policy recognizing it, like in India and Bangladesh. In Sri Lanka, they have had some experimental radio projects for a long time, but the extended years of civil war, the steady decline of civil society in the country have made it very challenging for Sri Lanka to have an autonomous community radio space, which it still doesn't have. I mean, after the presidential elections 5 years ago, some possibilities opened up for civil society, but there are still some serious human rights concerns. And it's only, 3-4 years ago that activists have come together to once again start the discussion around the issue of having an autonomous community radio sector in Sri Lanka. In Bangladesh, while they do have a recognized community radio sector, there have been incidents of violence targeting independent secular bloggers, against media persons. So there is a divided political milieu that is leading to muzzling of free speech and expression and posing real challenges to deliberative democracy. In Bhutan, there is an attempt to kickstart the community radio sector in the country after the country moved from an absolute monarchy to a republic. And there is some work that just started around NGOs having community radios. India does have a robust community radio sector, has had an energetic civil society, which is increasingly facing all kinds of challenges in the last 7-8 years. And there are, disenchantments within the community radio sectors because the numbers are really growing at a very slow rate. I mean, we have had community radio for about 16, 17 years, and with about 300 community radio stations, right? And so very few licenses are now being handed out to civil society organizations. Many more educational institutions are beginning to get licenses. So, I mean, this is sort of the picture of democracy and the larger democratic institutional environment within which South Asian community radio works. Next question. Yeah. The other issue is, while community radio is widely recognized and identified with civil society groups and NGOs have been legitimate actors in the establishment and operation of community radio stations in many countries across the world, especially in South Asia. It has led to some anomalies, as we see it. And, the idea of media as a tool for development has been a justification to demand for community radio in this country for about 20 years. The problem has been talking about community radio only as a means to communicate development makes it fall into the trap of the post-colonial nation-building project in which media are mobilized for national development, which is a very old paradigm going back to Wilbur Schramm and others. Now, this dominant paradigm of top-down communication still seems to prevail in some ways through the work of the NGOs. I mean, the NGOs seem to take on a pedagogical role to offer appropriate instruction to the masses and somehow undermining people's right or ability to express themselves as citizens and failing to recognize people's roles as active drivers of change. And there are other issues, I won't go into details. For example, financial support to community radio stations, which makes them dependent on the parent NGOs, on donor agencies, and increasingly on various ministries and agencies of Government of India, right? So while many stations adhere to the democratic principles of genuine grassroots community radio in India, the the funding model, the development imperative, and so on, and I have been writing about it in other places, including in this book, about the NGOization of community radio, which is leading to some kind of stultification of standardized genres of programming, formats of programming, and somehow belying the promise of community radio as an innovative sort of a medium, which will break into new formats and new frameworks, right? And of course, in terms of NGOization, Bangladesh, of course, is a classic case. NGOs are very prominent, and international donor agencies are very prominent in Bangladesh's economy. And there are only about 17 stations right now in Bangladesh, but many of them are within the ambit of an NGO kind of a framework. In a context, a national context where NGOs have become, like some scholars have pointed out, a franchisee state, rather than being independent, autonomous civil society entity. Yeah, so this is another issue of concern and worry in South Asia, the NGOization issue. Next, yeah. So we have been saying that this aspect of communication rights, going beyond using community radio to articulate development needs of people, communication rights, going beyond freedom of opinion and expression to include areas such as democratic media governance issues, participation, and promoting one's own culture, linguistic rights, and so on, have not been given the same degree of prominence, at least in the Indian context, but you also see this in other parts of South Asia. So we believe that community radio must go beyond providing communicative spaces where people can openly participate in discussion and debates and act as arenas for contestations over power, to challenge the spiral of silence induced by the standardized, globalized media, right? But regulatory frameworks in India and Nepal, in Sri Lanka, have made the use of community radio to articulate communication as a right has been somewhat inhibited. Of course, in India, community radios are barred from broadcasting anything considered political. They are also barred from broadcasting news. So anything that says news is not allowed on Indian community radio. And there are a lot of restrictions also in Bangladesh, which primarily defined itself as a development radio. Yeah.
Okay.
Finally, this whole idea that Kanchan also mentioned about reaching the unreached and the unheard has also been quite challenging. The opening up of the sector in South Asia as a whole, and countries like India and Bangladesh and Nepal in particular, the apprehensions about security arising out of disruptive activities of various non-state actors in the region has meant that they have been very cautious in opening up the sector, right? And whereas there are international examples like in Latin America, in Colombia. Colombia, for example, has for decades been a basket case for all kinds of violence, paramilitary violence, drug violence, and so on. Community media thrives in that country, right? Because they have used community media, as Clemencia Rodriguez has put it, to reconstitute symbolic universes that have been disrupted by violence. Yeah, not shying away from giving voices to people because of violence, but using community voices to heal society, to enable communities to address the core factors responsible for violence. So in India, the Home Ministry has been very slow in opening up so-called disturbed areas for licensing. Entire states and regions classified as disturbed areas has been very problematic. We have been arguing that precisely in those kinds of areas, communities need an independent, autonomous voice so that they can wean people away from violence or violent means of interest articulation into more non-violent means of achieving their objectives. Finally, issues of sustainability, the resources for sustainability, you get 2 or 3 community radio stations together, the first issue they will all talk about is sustainability. Financial sustainability has been a real issue, but sustainability also includes social sustainability, community sustainability, sustaining a spirit of voluntarism, which Kanchan had mentioned, the costs of establishing and maintaining community radios. Many activists and campaigners in the region have been talking about the need for setting up public funding of community radio as something that is desirable, because this is, after all, a public resource. But almost all countries in the region have been shying away from creating this public funding. India has some kind of community radio support scheme, but it is entirely run by the ministry, not as an autonomous public fund to which stations can stake claim. Yeah, it is done in many other parts of the world. We have been advocating that.
Right. Okay. So in addition to the issues that, Professor Pavrala has mentioned must be addressed, another major factor that can contribute to strengthening community radio in South Asia and also contribute towards its sustainability is the culture of self-regulation and peer review. As the South Asian region gears up for a network of thousands of autonomous community radio stations, we are hoping there will be thousands in India also. It becomes important to define a set of codes of practice for this third tier of broadcasting. So such a code is essential to enhance the integrity of the sector and to enable it to adhere strictly to the core non-negotiable principles that define the sector, such as community ownership, non-profit, not-for-profit making, and community participation. Some of these codes we have worked together also at the UNESCO chair. So CR stations in South Asia must identify self-regulatory norms and make ethical choices that put them in a convincing position to resist external regulation. Any step to bolster the social and financial sustainability that Professor Pavrala was mentioning must also be accompanied by regular performance audit of community radio stations in South Asia. This is something that we have been recommending. So anxious about encouraging accountability to community and ensuring adherence to some foundational tenets, the Community Radio Support Center in Nepal brought out the Community Radio Performance Assessment System. It is called CRPAS in 2011. CRPAS works as an index for process assessment instead of impact assessment to assist stations to periodically assess their own strengths and weaknesses. Similarly, in India, we at UNESCO Chair on Community Media developed, through an elaborate participatory process with community radio stations, a toolkit for self-assessment and peer review of community radio stations. This is called the Community Radio Continuous Improvement Toolkit, CRCIT. So the reflexive exercises of CRCIT are aimed at continuous improvement and to instill a culture of self-assessment among community radio stations. A sector-wide peer review process that was facilitated by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting in India recommended CRCIT, and the toolkit has been adopted by community radio sector in Bangladesh and validated also outside of South Asia, also in East Africa. So now, with this background that we have given you, let us now give you a sneak peek of the chapters that are included in the book and an idea of the range of complexity of issues dealt with by our contributors in the pages of this volume.
Pranta, it's okay to take another 5 minutes to do this, no? Yeah, I mean, we do want to give
we just briefly describe all the chapters one by one.
Yeah. Fine.
And I hope my voice is audible. I mean, no internet issue. Okay, all right. So in this book, we have endeavored to integrate content that creatively captures the hubbub around community radio for a holistic understanding of the sector in the South Asian region. If you look at the book structurally, it is distributed into 3 parts. The first section walks the readers through an analytical policy terrain of community radio in South Asia through chapters that closely assess the policy ecology of India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. The second part comprises articles that contend with the macro level, techno-social, and politico-economic concerns faced in the implementation and practice aspects of community radio by the sector in the region. The third and the final sector of the segment of the book deals with ground level experiences, and the chapters foreground subjectivities and lived realities faced by grassroots stakeholders of the specific community radio stations. Professor Pavrala will first talk about the first part of the first section of the book, the policy terrain. Yeah, sir.
Yeah, very briefly. So the first of these policy chapters, authored by Preeti Raghunath, attempts to go beyond the traditional approach to the study of community radio policy or any media policy, which tends to be usually studied through a set of policies and policy documents. Preeti Raghunath uses a critical policy ethnography method to look at the policy history and practice of community radio policy making in India. Of course, our larger work includes other parts of South Asia as well, but this book has a chapter specific to policy making in India. There is a second chapter by Dr. Mohammad Shahidullah, who I actually saw was on the call today, and I think he just
he was there.
And what Shahidullah's chapter does is, it frames Bangladesh as a country facing increasing social, economic, political, and cultural challenges at the rural level, and looks at community radio as having emerged in response to these challenges. So he traces the history of Bangladesh community radio policy going back to 2008, and raises some interesting questions about, questions like how does Bangladesh incorporate a participatory approach in CR planning, in management and programming to raise the voices of marginal communities. And his argument basically is that community ownership and participation, capacity building, sustainability are crucial areas that still need to be addressed in Bangladesh. And there is a chapter on Nepal, similarly, by Dr. Sudhanshu Dahal. And Nepal, as some of you know, has been a pioneer, and Kanchan mentioned this, in establishing community radio in South Asia. There is a long history of community radio there without a community radio policy. So Sudhanshu's chapter explores, some of these paradoxes in Nepal, and gives us some idea of the political context of Nepal, the 2015 Constitution of Nepal that abandoned the idea of nation as a monolithic entity founded in one language, one religion, one identity, one culture, with a monarchy as a unifying force. And instead, Nepal espousing an idea of nation as a dialogue among diverse ethnic and cultural identities. So this background that Dr. Dahal argues that is conducive to openness and democracy, and it was reflected in the establishment of citizens' media by various communities in Nepal that were previously marginalized. He also explored some of the problems and issues emerging out of this work of citizens' media. The final policy chapter is one by MC Rasmin and Vaniga Sundara, Professor Vaniga Sundara from Sri Lanka. Now, the history of Sri Lankan attempts to have a community radio is very fascinating. A lot of people know about the Mahaveli development project, the big irrigation project, around which there was an attempt to have a community radio. So they talk a little bit about that and about the well-known Kotmale community radio project, the so-called internet radio. They are no longer functional, and stations that are actually called community radio, they mention a few like Uva Radio, which are actually controlled by the Sri Lankan Broadcasting Corporation. They are not really community radios in the sense in which we understand community radio. So they examine the need for legal recognition of community radio and also identify the various obstacles in the path to genuine community ownership and to having autonomous community radios in Sri Lanka. So that's an important chapter as well from Sri Lanka.
All right. I'll move on to the second section of the book. It deals with issues in community radio praxis. And the first chapter is in this section is by Professor Vinod Pavrala, and he makes a case that civil society organizations, media activists and advocates who ran a campaign for opening up of airwaves from about the mid-1990s to early 2000 had emphasized, as he had mentioned earlier also, the potential of using community radio for development rather than foregrounding what seemed to be the more radical framework of communication rights. However, the research and experience over time has compelled him to reflect critically on the role of civil society organizations in the development of community radio in India. This chapter critiques the pitfalls of NGOization of community radio and with some concrete cases, and explores the possibilities for recovering community radio from being beholden to NGO goals and donor agency agendas. The next chapter in this section is by Ram Bhatt, and he examines the politics and design of spectrum allocation for community radio and traces how it shapes some of the key policy and programming issues. Electromagnetic spectrum and its use are often seen as a technical issue without going into the social and cultural implications for the media and communication sector that uses this spectrum as the backbone for wireless distribution. So this chapter maintains that technology is rarely neutral or innocent, rather it reflects the wider political economy. While the chapter focuses specifically on community radio spectrum allocation in India, some of the processes that guide this spectrum allocation policies could be used to draw broader conclusions about how technologies are deployed and their social, political, economic, and cultural consequences in any given society. The third chapter is by Hemant Babu, and it examines the paradoxical emergence of a democratic media in a monopolistic technological environment in the context of community radio in South Asia. In its philosophy and practice, community radio promises to give equal access and control to the communities. However, the medium is heavily dependent on technology, which is historically known for creating a hegemonic relationship among practitioners and technology providers. So what the chapter does is it stresses that for independent media, open and independent technology is an absolute prerequisite. The chapter attempts a comparative analysis of regulatory approach towards transmission and audio technology prevalent in India, Bangladesh, and Nepal. So you'll take on the next 4 chapters?
Yeah, continuing with some of the issues in practice, the next chapter is by Kanchan, which examines critically the dynamics of gender and participatory development, as well as the complex processes of women's empowerment in South Asia. So it does an overview of the engagement of women with community radio in South Asia, and it examines various capacity building efforts that are being carried out to mentor women to participate in program production and management of stations in the region, even as there are some real challenges posed by social structures within the communities that hinder the construction of democratic spaces by women. And Kanchan concludes by arguing that community radios within South Asia as well as globally must strive to become instruments that boost the complex process of women's empowerment through strengthening what she calls the voice capability amongst women. The next chapter is by Ashish Sen on a very important issue for community radio in South Asia, which is about disaster mitigation. Ashish has been a very prominent player globally and regionally on community radio. His work looks at the absence of appropriate policy reform that contrasts sharply with countries like Indonesia and Japan, other disaster-prone countries, which have provided and made spaces for certain kinds of community-based media initiatives. Even as South Asia is increasingly becoming vulnerable to climate change and disasters, Ashish Sen points out the gap, the regulatory and policy gap in making disaster mitigation a priority for community radio. So he's emphasizing the need for a proactive community radio environment in South Asia that would address disaster mitigation effectively. He also provides us some anecdotal evidence and also some data based on documents through a case study of the station called Kalanjiyam Vanoli in Tamil Nadu, which he suggests is India's first community radio station for disaster preparedness, which was set up in the post-tsunami period in Nagapattinam district in Tamil Nadu in 2004. So with that case study, he kind of makes an argument for providing for emergency licenses for community radio and other such regulatory frameworks. Moving on to the chapter by N. Ramakrishnan and Venu Arora, both directors in the organization called IdeoSync in Delhi. They have done a lot of interesting work on sustainability of community radio stations in the region, and this chapter talks about that. The impact of policies on sustainability and the advantages and disadvantages of having a formal policy for community radio is what they examine in the first part of their article. And they'll then go on to look at the institutional character of community radio stations emerging in South Asia. In a way, what my chapter had talked about in terms of NGOs owning community radio stations is also something that they refer to. In comparison to Nepal, in India and Bangladesh, stations are less local media institutions and more extensions of public radio with a service or welfare oriented mandate is the argument that they make, and they discuss a strategic design in this chapter for ensuring sustainability of community radio as primarily a local media resource. Once community radio is identified as a local media resource that amplifies local voices and prioritizes marginalized concerns, it has a different kind of sustainability, is the argument that they make.
Right.
Finally, in the issues, we have Pradeep Thomas, the well-known communication for social change scholar based in Australia. He explores the possibilities for community radio in India to be used for reconciliation of conflicts faced by communities. His chapter focuses on the diversity and complexity of religions and cultures and the secular fabric that is under strain from the pressures of majoritarian and minoritarian identity politics in India. And these pressures have also begun to impact the community radio movement in India to some extent. Given that, Pradeep points out that there are moves to grant licenses to religious bodies and organizations, if not directly through proxy means, some of which have explicit religious and communal agendas. The author also goes on to deal with the possibilities for community radio to be used by communities on the margins in India, such as Dalit communities. Yeah? So the chapter makes the case for grounding of community radio in India in values that are supportive of the interests of communities and that strengthen local values and livelihoods.
All right. So the next chapter in the section on case studies, it is by Professor Vasuki Belawadi, and he recalls how the announcement by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, they had announced that they are keen on introducing a process of performance evaluation of community radio stations, and that had generated a debate on the methods to be adopted to carry out such an exercise. So after some discussion, MIB agreed to a process of self-assessment and peer review by CR stations in the spirit of co-learning as against an external evaluation of the sector. By then, there were 3 toolkits for self-assessment that had been developed by different agencies that had academic as well as altruistic stakes in the sector. The ministry adopted them as part of what it called a peer review process. This chapter by Vasuki examines the participatory processes that went into the development of one of these toolkits, that is the Community Radio Continuous Improvement Toolkit. The next chapter we have is by Madhavi Manchi, and Madhavi Manchi considers her chapter as an attempt to move away from an anthropocentric understanding of media technologies. She extends ideas from material media ecology practice, affect theories, memory studies, and ethnoecology to study the case of a CR station in Telangana, India, that is embedded within the larger biodiversity movement in the region. Working through women's collectives, the community seeks to gain autonomy over 5 major aspects of their lives, that is food production, seeds, natural resources, market, and media. So as you would have guessed, this is about Sangam Radio and Deccan Development Society. So the author believes that Sangam Radio, which lies within a unique interlay of memory, media, and biodiversity, serves important archival and mnemonic functions within the larger movement, and that such spaces as community radio need to be recognized and celebrated as they provide a real alternative to homogenizing tendency of neoliberalism. We also have a chapter by Bidu Bhushan Das, which brings out the complexity of the production process of a community radio program, where participation must be the core principle. The juxtaposition of the implied meaning of Chopal as an open public space with how it is a site of power hierarchies in its day-to-day functioning in a village system reveals the challenges faced in program production. So this chapter, based on an ethnographic study of a community radio station in Bundelkhand region of India, explores the role of community radio in the promotion of grassroots democracy, where the society, culture, and economy are not quite democratic. He has done in-depth ethnographic work in that area. So the program Gaon Ki Chaupal or Village Chaupal, produced by two community radio reporters, to have improved. It seems to have improved people's involvement in community radio programs. But what he's trying to say is that it is not simple to produce and broadcast such programs in feudal society. So that's his argument. And finally, we have a chapter by Priya Kapoor that examines how the Himalayan communities, whose youth are mobilized by the incidents of Tehri Dam and Chipko movement, have indigenized the seeming globality of climate change to help their communities during recurrent disasters, especially floods. So the author has studied how community radio sites are sites that assert identity and agency of local youth from Tehri Garhwal region to serve as indispensable intermediaries when floods paralyze life in the region. The author provides theoretical insights into the confluence of scholarly discourse of disaster and risk, climate change, and community media to assert that community radio has strong synergies with issues of climate change, especially during the instance of natural disaster. I'll hand over to Professor Pavrala to talk about the boxes and, of course, conclude also. We've taken a lot of extra time, I guess.
Yeah, we are almost done. This is always a challenge to present an edited volume, because you also want to do justice to your contributors, because the book is ultimately theirs.
Right.
One of the features of the book I just want to mention, for those of you who have not seen the book, each chapter in the book is followed by a boxed story about community radio that is broadly related to the theme of that chapter. So these stories, some in the form of interviews, some in the form of reports, some of them that have appeared in CR News letter that Kanchan edits and brought out by the UNESCO chair. They serve as chapter separators, but they also give readers a flavor of the real world happenings in the community radio sector in South Asia in the last decade or so. And it also foregrounds the voices of some of the significant actors, grassroots practitioners, and enthusiasts in the field. After all, as the late Zaini Ibrahim, the legendary South African community broadcaster, put it, community radio is 99% about community and only 1% about radio. So we just wanted to make this gesture of bringing community voices through this kind of a structural element in the book. So finally, this element brings together contributions from 17 different authors, including the two editors, contributors residing in 7 different countries, academics, researchers, experts, advocates of community radio. So it was a challenging book to put together, and no wonder we took a while to do this. And we thank once again all the contributors for enhancing the value of this book as a collected work on community radio in South Asia. So let me thank the organizers, Pranta, Dr. Lakrab, other colleagues in the department for inviting us and giving us this opportunity. So if there is time, Pranta, if you have not eaten too much into your time, we can take a few questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pranta, and thank you others also. You see 2 pictures here, because the first one, the picture which is below was the international edition, and the above is the South Asia edition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Vinod Pavrala and Professor Kanchan Malik, for putting together such a voluminous work into a very organized, thoughtful, and indeed insightful perspective. And I think this book will be quite resourceful for the students who are working in communication and in future for community radio as well. So now the floor is open for any kind of questions, comments, and discussion with the authors of the book. We have the contributors as well over here. Vidhu is over here. I believe Sahidullah sir would also be over here. So if there are any questions or comments, participants, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself, and or you may type in the chat box. Yeah, Mr. Anirudh Jaina, please go ahead.
So thank you so much, Pranta sir, for the opportunity, and thank you so much, sir and ma'am, for that interesting presentation. So there is no doubt that this new edited volume in so many ways enhances our understanding of community radio in South Asia, and it does that quite significantly as well. So my question is related to the very ethos and idea of community radio. Of late, it is quite visible from the recent development that the state, the so-called state, is quite effectively and aggressively appropriating the idea of community radio as a grassroots media, using it just as a mere purveyor and disseminator of government policies, programs, forums, propaganda, and agenda to some extent as well. And this is fine to some extent when it comes to government advertisement as a means for earning something or sustainability purpose of community radios. But do you think this aggressive evolution of community radio as a mere development medium, which is sponsored and curated by the state, is diluting the very ethos of community radio as an alternative media that is supposed to be independent, free, radical, democratic, and participatory in nature, which primarily aims at strengthening communication rights and amplifying community voices at the margins? And how can the advocacy and activism prospects of community radio as alternative media can be re-emphasized again? Thank you.
Kanchan?
Yeah. First of all, I thought Anirudh will give a comment and not a question. So because, I think he's doing a lot of work in this area also. And I think the answer to your question lies in your question itself, right? So, if we look at community radio and the ideal kind of community radio that we are talking about, when we link community radio with things like, the beginnings are, linking it with ideas of media democracy, right? To giving voice to the unheard. When we say that it is a medium outside of the state sector and the market, when, these are the basis for talking about community radio, then, the state taking interest is interesting to support community radio, right? But it should do it in a manner that it doesn't lose its essential character. Right? Otherwise, why is there a need for a third tier of broadcasting if, it has to become something like the other two sectors that we have, right? They are playing their own role. So let them do that, but let community radio have a distinct identity. And one thing that we would like to say about, community radio is that it can happen if it follows some of the non-negotiable core principles of community radio. So we have a set of codes that we have in mind for community radio sector, which I feel if it follows and there is self-regulation, right, then this kind of encroachment, let's say, or appropriation of community radio may not really happen, right, if those rules are followed. Having said that, sustainability, of course, is an issue. And if you actually talk to the practitioners, there are issues that they are talking about. And one of them is, of course, financial sustainability. The reply that we as UNESCO Chair on Community Media, all of us give is usually that, if there is social sustainability, if there's a buy-in from the community, then this is something that can be tackled. So you like to add?
No, I mean, just, a sentence or two. I mean, what Anirudh was talking about, the increasing, emphasis on community radio as some kind of a purveyor of information, about
last mile
programs and so on. The so-called last mile delivery platform of state policies and so on is actually something that I'm taking on tomorrow at another platform. But so you're sort of preempting that discussion. But I take your point. I mean, it's one needs to be critical about that construction of community radio as just a last mile delivery mechanism of things coming from the top. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think because of COVID, some of that has, also happened, because there the information dissemination function of community radio got more focused than, the participation of communities, which was not so simple at the time during COVID, right?
Yeah, Bidu
Thank
has
you, sir.
raised. Yeah. Thank you, Anirudh. Bidu, you had.
Thank you, Pranta. I convey my regards to Central University of Rajasthan Department of Media and Cultural Studies team and the editors of the volume, Professor Binod and Professor Kanchan. I'm really privileged to contribute one chapter, which is very much, you can say, very much critically edited, and it's a great collection for the students and practitioners who are working on community radio. This is not a question regarding the book. I'm privileged to contribute to this book, to this volume. The question is, if you wish to edit one more volume, so what perspectives or what new ideas or new cases you'll include in that new volume? And is there any future plan?
I have a
Good. Go ahead, sir.
I have a title ready, Bidu, but I don't know what to put into it. I'm thinking of the discordant notes in community radio, the discontents of community radio as probably an overwhelming theme. Now that we have had almost close to 20 years of work in this field, one begins to notice and observe a lot of discontents, both from within the sector, at the grassroots, things like what scholars like you and Anirudh and activists are now finding in the field. I think we need to start foregrounding some of these. The time for just a celebratory voice is long past. I think one also needs to critique it from within. As admirers and supporters of community radio, we should raise these kind of questions. Yeah. And Bidu, will come back to you for a contribution if we are doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Another idea is, to be also talking about cases, another book where we have, curating experiences from the field that Professor Babrala had mentioned, right? That voices from the field. If we could help, help in the sense of facilitate people who are practitioners of community radio to share with us their actual experiences of doing the work. Right. And in that, I would be interested in the women empowerment initiatives, of course. So maybe something like that.
Thank you so much.
This time, what we'll do is, with each of the contributor, we should have one community person also, being an author.
That will be nice. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Bidu. And if there are any other questions, comments. Okay, I have one curiosity. It's not a question or a comment because when one of my MS student was working on community radio in Tilonia over here, and we presented a paper in Pune where Bidu was working, and we were asking this question of community. So it was rethinking the community in community radio. Yes. And we have Kanchan ma'am, who has worked on women and community radio. So, and the book also has chapters related to Dalit community, the women. So my curiosity was in terms of when we are talking about gender and community radio, does this category of gender gets enmeshed with other social categories like the caste or the region or the class? Okay, so because in Tilonia community radio, what we found is the people belonging to a particular community, they were in that community radio center. So that question, so as sir has mentioned, community radio and its discontent. So one of the discontent might be this, like it questions the very idea of community, or as Anirudh said, talking about participation. So who all are involved in this participatory mode? So, did ma'am you find any such kind of case studies where the gender gets enmeshed with other social categories, like particularly the caste, as Sarmila Rege says that gender and caste needs to be looked together? Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You're very right. When we are looking at gender also, it is, we look at it from we need to take on the lens of, intersectionality, right? We need to bring in that lens. In the, studies that we are doing initially, we are looking at women as the marginalized group or the marginalized communities. But within the community of women, or when you take gender as a, as a category, there are other differences which are there, right? And there are other marginalizations that happen also, which need to be taken into account, right? Of course, we always give the example of Sangam Radio, right? Where your caste is a very big factor, and the women who are involved, we say there is triple or marginalization which is there. So it is marginalized among the marginalized who are who have access to community radio. So within when we try to understand marginalizations, these other categories of course come into play also. Class is also one of the categories that comes into play. So all of this needs to be taken into account for a deeper analysis of how community radio is catering to empowerment. And that's one thing we need to bring in. I'm planning to bring in when I'm further working on the idea of voice capability, right? How intersectionality plays into this whole experience of empowerment that women go through, right? Especially when they are community media producers. So that's a very important aspect that you have pointed out. Sir, you like to add?
No, I think that's adequately answered, I think.
Yeah. Sir, I also have a quick question before Nicholas sir has also raised his hand. Just wanted to know sir's view, Vinod sir's. Like when I'm going through this discussion, I was also reading along with Amartya Sen's idea of justice and how the capability approach is being included. Can we consider community radio also as a kind of providing a platform for this capability approach? And if this capability approach is incorporated into this community radio, but on the other hand, we have the social structure as well that is impinging upon. So how does this tension between the state and the civil society, which community radio thinks of mediating, that needs to be overcome, or that needs to be examined?
And if the development discourse can be framed beyond merely provision of material benefits, but also stretch it to talk about development as a human right.
Yeah.
I mean, then you can, bring in other perspectives of Amartya Sen.
Yes, like he talks about right to communicate, which
very,
is
very
much a part
of. Issues of justice, of course, are very central to his work, which are probably very productive ways of using the development lens in a different way. In the community radio sector.
Yeah. When we use the human development and capability approach also, we bring in the ideas of agency and freedoms. So the voice capability is going to take into account some of those issues also. The politics of voice along with issues of freedom, agency, and of course, social justice. So that's what we are working on currently also.
I think Dr. Lakra had
Yeah, Dr. Lakra, sir, please unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I have a very simple question. This is my observation that what is the future of community radio? So ideally speaking, and as per we understand, the basic concept of community radio is that it is very good for promoting the democracy or participatory democracy and raising the voice of unheard, things like that. But in our country, what we see that this kind of means of communication is not that supported, or we are much lagging behind than other even small countries like Nepal and Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, like that. So, and whereas we talk about our country is a democratic country, but the very democratic means of communication is not that supported. Okay, that is my observation. And what is the future of community radio in the wake of digital communication, whereas there is a lot of popularity of audiovisual communication. Okay, so in that, how community radio can fight it becomes a very means of communication for ordinary people, whereas the YouTube channels and things like that, social media is overtaking. So in that context, in this situation, how this community radio can do. Okay, so there are two things major that how community radio can be supported in our community. Okay, so how community radio also play a greater role in the wake of digital communication. This is another thing that I see, that community radio, whereas in should be communication of community. It means that production, dissemination, management, community should be involved. Okay, so that thing is a bit difficult, and more and more it becoming community radio, where whatever we have in our country, that university is mostly running. So it is become more and more campus radio rather than community radio. This is my observation. So your feedback.
Sir, right.
Kanchan, you want me to go?
Yeah,
first?
yes, sir.
No, I think
the
idea of inclusivity is very important for community radio, or it should be important. I mean, if you look at representation of marginalized communities, Dalits, minorities in the mainstream media, on which much has been written about now, very documented work is available now that shows very minuscule representation of the voices of the marginalized in the mainstream media. Now, given that context and the context of globalization that wants to homogenize everything, to co-opt, even attempts to include, I think end up merely becoming accommodation and co-optation rather than representing them as equal partners in the mainstream media. In that context, I mean, for a long time, Kanchan and I and other scholars of community radio have felt that there is a real potential in community radio for constituting an alternative public sphere. Where the voices of the marginalized communities, of minorities, of Dalits, of differently abled people, and so on, people with different sexual orientation, and so on, can play a central role and set the agenda, right? Not merely get co-opted in the dominant public sphere. And there are complex interactions one can think of then between the alternative public sphere and the dominant hegemonic public sphere, because you cannot completely ignore the dominant public sphere also, right? I mean, we need to continuously work to see how we can bring about change and reform in the dominant public sphere also, right? So this is something that we have been playing with for a long time, and this is a work in progress, Dr. Lakra. I mean, decades of discrimination, injustice cannot be addressed overnight just with a community radio station, right? I mean, you need a lot of social structural changes, political reform, all of that to work in tandem. Yeah. Because we are very opposed to setting up technological utopias to say, here is a community radio station, now it will resolve all discrimination in the community. We are under no such illusion, right? But there are possibilities that need to be harnessed. But it also needs a supportive political, social environment for that to happen. Yeah, so that an answer to one larger question you had. Kanchan, you want to take on his second, Dr. Lakra's second one?
which is related to the relevance of community radio in the digital world. Is
Yes,
that
yes.
kind of thing?
Yeah.
So we've been arguing, Professor Lakra, that we shouldn't, as far as community radio is concerned, we should not, get into the digitizing community radio in a hurry, right? We look at community radio as working to bridge the digital divide in a lot of ways, because if we look at the access to media, there are people who are still on the other side of the digital divide, right? And through community radio, we are able to reach out to those communities, right? So I think there is relevance of community radio in the digital world also. Even during pandemic, if you see, they're not, the information could not reach people only through the digital media. It is because of the community connect that the community radio station had with people that a lot of the information which was in the public domain through the digital world reached out to the communities. So that's how it happened. And also the local language, which is a very important thing in community radio. Right? The community radios connect to their communities in the local dialect completely, right? So they reinterpret a lot of information and, in the context of the local culture, as well as in ways that the community can comprehend. So I think there is still, space for community radio, even as we move towards digital India.
Kanchan and I are among the last of the analog missionaries in the country. We are not giving up on the analog space. I mean, we are not completely bought into the digital dreams that are being doled out. Yeah, we need to see how FM frequencies, the spectrum will continue to remain, available for communities to articulate their voices. I mean, even if the mainstream media abandons the analog space, we have been saying just give those frequencies to communities. Yeah, we'll continue to run in analog. Yeah, at least, I mean, we are not opposed to digital, but one cannot just jump on the digital bandwagon as if, these digital divides don't exist.
Right. And as Professor Bavralla had mentioned about Zain Ibrahim, community radio is more about connecting with the community rather than, just about technology. So the whole process of community media making is what is the important thing. So as long as we keep connecting with the communities, which you also mentioned, the participation of the communities is not so simple. But yeah, as long as we keep involving the communities, that will be the way to go.
Yeah, my question was that in the face of this visual communication that is becoming more and more popular. In that context, how we can still make this community radio or social communication, because in the place of this community radio, can be there a community television, something like that. Can be there a community television, because this is the communication of sensual appealing, visual communication. So in that context, this community radio has to survive or flourish or fight. This is my question. So can there be a community television?
It's a question that we do ask ourselves from time to time. But we have realized that audio technologies are much cheaper to establish and operate. Something like a television station is much more prohibitive. The costs of broadcasting are much more expensive. I mean, so audio is widely available all over the world. In those who are living, down the line on the development road, still hold on to radio. I mean, I've seen this in East Africa, in East Africa. So we can't completely abandon radio in a hurry because of new technologies that have arrived. But let's constantly keep exploring what are the possibilities. I mean, because if it is community media, in the sense of being in the hands of community, whether it is television, video, or
newspapers,
platforms, I think one needs to keep exploring these possibilities.
Yeah, even newspapers. Yeah.
Where literacy is not an issue, community newspapers, yes.
So yeah, the whole range of alternative and community media.
Yes, yes. So before the last 20 brave souls also drop out, Pranta might want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
Bring it
Dr.
to-
Thakur. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful discussion session we had, and you made most of our evening, and we really like to thank all the participants who have joined over here, and also thanks to all the faculty members and the students of other department, and to our moderator Sahib Mendirita, who have moderated it nicely. And thank you, Professor Kanchan Malik ma'am and Professor Vinod Pabrala sir. And we would like to see another volume of community radio and its discontent very soon to be included in our discussion. It was a really lovely evening and a nice discussion. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Kanchan ma'am,
Pranta and
and Vinod sir.
Yes, sir.
Nice to see you.
Sahib and others,
Have nice interaction,
thanks for having
lively
us.
interaction. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for having us.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much, sir.
Anirudh, Ram,
Thank you so much.
and all the.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying back.
Anirudh,
long live the idea of community radio.
Yes.
good. Yes,
Community
Thank you.
media. Anirudh, community media.
media.
Yeah, slash media as well.
Flash media. Okay.
Thank you, Kanchan ma'am, and thank you, Vinod sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you all.
Lalka.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so much.
Pranta.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pranta.